Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future. Shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable ongoing reality.
Welcome to Transition Radio.
Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to Real Talk with the Cummings radio segment. That means you won't get to see our face. My name is Mark Angelo Cummings.
And my name is Linda Ariel Cummings. And we are coming to you from our beautiful little home in the woods here in Silver City, New Mexico. And we are excited to be here talking to you.
We originally was going to use the Blog Talk Radio, but, you know, it was a lot of hassle. They changed things around. Now they're only giving you 30 hours for the free on-air program. And if you wanted more, you had to pay. And, you know, we don't get any money from doing this. We don't help people for donations. And, you know, and though we do have a donate button in our little neck of the woods website or blog, whatever it is, and we're always very grateful. But, you know, Blog Talk is ridiculously expensive. They want for their unlimited plan, I think it's $40 a month, you know, which is something crazy. But we decided to use, you know, Google Hangout. It works. And
as long as it's free.
Yeah, as long as it's free still, right? And we will continue doing our video segment, but that's Tuesday night. So we call it Television Tuesday or TV Tuesday. And then just Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday, we're going to have the radio segment at 9:30 p.m. Mountain Time. We won't be going as long as we normally do on our TV segment. We're going to try to shoot for 45 minutes, keep it under an hour.
Yeah, but it's nice because we don't have to worry about getting cut off, you know, by Blog Talk and stuff. So if we go over 30 minutes now, it's all live. We're here, and we have a chat line here on Google that you can access us on, and
you could also call us.
575-519-5930 number. Yep. And we're here at that number too. And yeah.
Yeah. Do you have the phone on? It's over
there. Yeah, it's over there.
Okay, so yeah, so
go get it.
Yeah, go get the phone. It would help if anybody calls. Anyway, this is very casual. We always, you know, in the beginning when I used to do the TV segment, Joe, I forgot his last name now, original was some program that he got bought over by Gay Live.
Not Straight TV.
Not Straight TV, and then it was Gay Live Television, and decided to go solo, so it's a lot harder to do all the bells and whistles that, you know, they did for us back in the day, but we enjoy this. We have full control. And don't have to answer to anybody or worry about anything. This is just our little stage here to share the information that we learn, because we are truth seekers and truth tellers. And you know, a lot of people don't agree with our truth, but hey, you know.
Yeah, what can you do? I mean, everybody has an opinion, and you all have the right to let people know.
Exactly. And tonight, we've got several articles that we wanted to go over. And again, if you guys want to join us with any questions on chat or anything you want to comment on, or the phone number that Lynn just mentioned, which is
area code 575-519-5930.
You got such great memories. I have to go back and look at the the phone number. Well, I'm also older, you know. Brain cells get eaten away.
No excuses.
But anyway, yeah, I've always had this amazing love for human psychology. Not so much for the psychology profession, but I've always been very interested in how human beings tick, how they work, why they do what they do. I've studied the trans community for a long time. I've studied the gay community for a long time. Constantly reading, trying to analyze behavior. I have a very analytical nature, and I'm very good at putting things together. I'm good at like seeing characters, and I'm not. I mean, every time
Oh yeah, you're spot on pretty much most of the time. It's pretty amazing.
And it's one of those things that, you know, I think that a lot of our behaviors stem from how we were raised, our upbringing as children. You know, people don't realize that a lot of our hang-ups, a lot of our worries, fears, and things of that nature stem from our childhood traumas. And we've done shows about this before, but this article I came across really, you know, caught my mind, or caught my eye. And so I want to talk about it because I think, and it's not just about transgender or gay issues. I think this affects everyone on this planet. So if you experience some form of emotional abuse as a child, you probably do these things as an adult, and have a list of things that, you know, to talk about. And I'm sure a lot of you will agree with this and feel that you have some sort of connection to this. So the way you are treated as a child can have lasting effects on you, even in adulthood. This is why they say when you raise a child, you're raising the person that they will become. The experience that you form in your childhood become the building blocks of your outlook on life and the perception you have of yourself.
Before I continue reading, isn't it interesting that, you know, they talk about, especially a doctor called, I think his name is Dr. Michael Clapper, mentioned that, no, it wasn't Michael Clapper, it was another gentleman. I forget his name. We were doing his videos, reading some of his materials. But Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he was talking about how these things, children are like recorders.
Yes.
They're not really assimilating the information. I'm not trying to synthesize it and make it an opinion or a viewpoint per se, but they are just recording these experiences up through the age 6 or 7 or something like that. And it's amazing just how impactful what you speak, what you do, how you react, how you respond, how, you know, the building blocks of your outlook on life, whatever you feed your children is how that perception is built in them. And, you know, it's just...
Yeah, and adults don't realize that, you know. And I studied child psychology while I was going for my degree in occupational therapy. And it's so crucial. I mean, parents should be handed a manual because they can mess up these little beings for life. They're so impersonable. Any little thing you say or do, they take to heart. They're like sponges. And then once that gets recorded in that brain, it is so difficult to break that through, to break away from it. And that's why it says here, you know, they're like building blocks, you know, and it's the child you raise is the person they will become, you know.
Well, continuing the article, a person who experienced emotional abuse as a child will act in ways different to someone who hadn't experienced similar abuse. The impact may be so severe as to ruin the individual's ability to form meaningful relationships with people who are in their lives. And this really brings to mind a Facebook post that I read about your friend, his name Will, I think.
Yeah, Will Group.
And he was voicing the fact that, you know, he saw his parents. He saw the way his dad treated his mom, and he's very, very angry still. He's still holding a lot of angst and pain
I could totally relate because I grew up in a very hostile environment. My father was an alcoholic. He beat the living daylights out of my mother. I used to have to stand in the way sometimes to prevent him from hitting her. I would hope that he wouldn't hit me since I didn't do anything. But when he was drunk, he just broke everything. And I mean, I grew up in that fear as a child. And let me tell you, I believe that it led me to have major fear of men, and most likely led me to engage in, lesbian relationship, because I didn't trust guys, besides the fact that I was molested from the age of 8 to 12. Seeing the way my father behaved didn't really give me much, hope that I would meet a nice man. I was always fearful that I was going to marry somebody like my mother did,
Yeah, that's the dangers.
Yeah. And I know people say, well, you can't say that, and they're saying that all lesbians are that way because they've had experience. I believe that there are a lot of reasons for why people become gay or lesbians, maybe not all the same, but I do believe that we are traumatized as children, and certain things lead us that way. I know there are people that are innate with their sexuality and they have preferences, but I believe that our environment shapes a lot of our preferences as well.
They really do.
So if you have experienced emotional abuse, it is likely that you will relate to some of the following symptoms or behaviors. Often we suppress painful memories, so you may not realize that you're acting out due to childhood trauma until you read some of these behaviors. Here are several signs that you experienced emotional abuse as a child. And this is very important because a lot of people will erase these memories or put them in a back burner. You don't remember them, or you create memories to fill up those other memories.
Absolutely. One is bottle up anger. People who have experienced emotional abuse often don't know how to cope with feelings of anger or sadness. They don't know how to manage or release their emotions in a healthy way, so they bottle them up until they overflow.
I think this is one of the things my father would do. He would bottle things up, and then until he blew up, and then when he blew up, it was hell to pay. And I think that's the way they taught him, not to say anything. He would just hold things and hold things and hold things till he couldn't hold them anymore, and then he exploded. Number two, don't stand up for yourself. Those who have been emotionally abused as children have a difficult time standing up for themselves as adults. They're afraid to take action and often avoid conflict at all costs. That would be me, because I saw my parents arguing all the time. And if I would say something, I would, there was a wrath to pay. So I learned a lot of times to bottle things in. Later on in life, as I learned about psychology, I taught myself to talk things to death. Literally. I mean, sometimes you tell me enough already. You're still talking about that? Because I believe that that's important. Communication is the key, because you can keep things in, it festers, it makes you sick, you get cancer, you get heart attacks, strokes from holding it in.
Number three is people pleaser. If you were raised to be terrified that you may anger someone, you may grow up doing everything in your power to please everyone, even at the expense of sacrificing your own needs or desires.
What did my ex-wife say about me? That I'm a people pleaser.
Yeah.
Because it's like growing up in that fear of pissing off my mom or pissing off my dad, either or. I mean, my mom was no angel. I love her to death, but having a thyroid problem, she definitely, it was like, I didn't know who was worse, and I didn't want to piss any one of them at any given time. I mean, do you find yourself being a people pleaser a lot of times?
I think that I have been at times. Yeah.
Number four, suffer from anxiety or depression because of all the bottled up emotions. People who have dealt with emotional abuse often suffer from anxiety and depression, sometimes without knowing the source. This is very important, suffer from anxiety and depression, because, the bottled up emotion, you've felt that way, that you couldn't express yourself because of the religious upbringing that you had. And, you might have experienced some emotional abuse. Sometimes your parents don't mean that kind of harm, but that's the way their parents treated them.
Right.
And so it's...
And, you end up really holding things in to the point where you basically implode over time.
Definitely. And then all hell breaks loose.
Number five, overly shy. Because people who've experienced this kind of abuse are used to silencing their voice so as to not displease authority, They often grow up finding it difficult to reach out to others and have trouble speaking to new people and forming new relationships.
I find this to be very common in the transgender community. They have difficulty socializing. You know, they have difficulty making meaningful relationships. You know?
Yeah, it's very common because so many times, especially with male to female transsexuals, I mean, it's so common to see a person who is like a total like recluse decide that, oh my gosh, I was supposed to be a woman, and they, you know, they were always this shy, really quiet book nerd or computer geek or have awkward social skills.
Yeah, and they want to blame it on the transgender thing, and it's not. It's just that's their personality.
Right.
There's a personality. So all of a sudden, they think that they're that way because they were born wrong, quote unquote. And it's not. It's just that's the way they were. Whether it was because of some sort of abuse they sustained when they were younger, or because of some sort of neurological impairment, dealing with this fast-paced society with all this fast-paced technological stuff. Mother being pregnant, probably. You know, it's just so much information. And we talked about that the other day, that there is so much information overload.
Too much information, too much stimulus. You know, I'm surprised, like I was telling you before, that they still have hour-long TV shows, that they still have half-hour-long sitcoms, because people's attention spans are a lot less, you know, capable of being able to focus on one particular show or 30 minutes of sitting down and watching something on TV. I mean, all you have to do is look at kids these days and see, you know, if they, you know, when you watch a YouTube video of a young millennial or a younger kid, they're always like, it's always like, you know, and
like, what's next? What's next?
The editing style of the video is always like, what's next? What's next?
Our brain's not used to that. It cannot handle that. That's not how we are equipped. And that is why we have all these neurological impairments.
We're not able to process the things that are in front of us. And then comes along something else, and then we haven't even finished processing that.
And that's why we require all this dopamine release, because we've like programmed ourselves.
It's sort of like Facebook too. Yeah. I mean, you go on Facebook or on Twitter and you read all kinds of news, all kinds of videos. You watch all kinds of people's lives, interactions, and all these things, and it's all hitting you at once, you know, and you're like not done processing one thing. You know, they're talking about World War III in North Korea. Next thing you know, they're talking about, you know, Hurricane Irma. I mean, it's like,
it's instant.
It's a constant barrage.
The brain can't take that. The neurological system can't take that. It is not how we have been designed. And it's going to create a lot of ramifications in the long run. We're seeing it already. How many kids with ADHD? How many kids have Asperger, autism, all sorts of learning disability, all sorts of stuff.
You got to realize that autism did not even really exist in the 1930s America that people lived in. Yeah. It was an unknown. That wasn't even something that people even talked about. And now, I mean, by the year, 2030, supposedly 1 in 2 children will have autism spectrum disorder.
Definitely. It's, you know, people need to slow down. They need to put down their smartphones. They need to limit the internet time with their children, you know, and not really take them out in nature. Let them see what the real world is all about. We live in such an artificial world. That is why we are so corrupt and mentally incapable of dealing with anything.
I mean, it was a really crazy number that they quoted, like when we were visiting a national park and they had this percentage survey, you know, of how many kids actually play outside these days. And I forgot what it was particularly, but I think at least 75% of kids don't play outside anymore.
They don't get sun. They don't have any vitamin D.
I think it's 90% of children don't play outside anymore. And you know, in the world that I grew up in,
same here.
I mean, playing outside.
You were always outside.
Was the average. That was the the normal thing.
It's like, the parents try to get us back in. Come on, it's dinner time. And we come on, another half an hour. And we'll be out there forever. Now you go on the streets, you barely see any kids playing.
No, they're not playing at all.
No PE, no playing, no nothing. Just sitting in front of TV, a computer, or some sort of smart device. Anyway, self-blame. Even when they're not at fault, those who have been through emotional abuse will constantly find themselves at fault, and I will always be afraid of making mistakes, This may prevent them from taking any risks or going after what they actually want. That's why we have a bunch of lethargic people who are afraid to step out of the box. They live very, carefully controlled lives, and it's just, safe lives.
Their world is basically their bubble, and you'll find this a lot in Christian community. They're going to always have this protective shield over their children. They're always going to be, and it's not wrong to be protecting your kids, but people, come on. And there comes a certain time in a teenager's life where you got to let go and let these kids really be able to express themselves. And I'm not talking about let them dabble in drugs and, drink till they're, until the cows come home. But I'm just saying, let these kids express and be themselves. Don't hold them back.
Yeah, and that comes also like what we're seeing, this craze with all these gender clinics coming about, because there are all these gender fluid kids and they want to stick them in a male box or a female box. Let them express. Why do you have to rush these kids into making any lifelong decisions? Or why do you have to mess with these kids? Let them play. Play is important. And part of play is role play and expressing different things. That's important. That's something
that's a part of an imagination of any child, is to be able to play make-believe and to create scenarios in their brains. And it's like, that's all part of play. And it's part of that constructive process of brain development. And if you don't allow that to happen, you don't allow the child to have an imagination and to tell them, no, that you can't do that, you can't be this, you can't do that, you have to live this way. It's like, no.
And then there's that extreme, like, oh, you think you're a girl? Okay, we're going to block your hormones. You realize you're blocking not just the secondary characteristic, you're blocking their brain development, their bone development, their neurological development. You're blocking all sorts of shit that is not reversible. So let your kids express, let them play, be a good parent. And by being a good parent, you want to keep your kids safe, but at the same time, you want to give them a little bit of autonomy.
And that's the thing about these doctors who are rushing these children through the gender clinics and having them take cross-sex hormones before they're even 16. And they're actually advocating for taking hormones before they're 12 now. The Endocrine Society just released their guidelines to say that, these children should be given, pubertal, suppressors and stuff like that. And it's like, you just don't realize that these things are absolutely not necessary. And they are also going to cause problems in these children, because they do not, like when a child takes a puberty suppressor, and this was the thing that Dr. Spack said back in the day. I don't even think he says it as much anymore, but this gives the child a time to be able to think about it, to be able to wonder and to make a decision later as their puberty is blocked. And it's like, no, once you block their puberty, the next regimen is cross-sex hormones. It's not a like, oh, well, let's just see and wait. They treat it as a next step is cross-sex hormones. After that, it's surgery.
How many kids have there been that they put them on blockers and then they take them off and let them have the normal puberty? Zero. As soon as they put them on that blocker, bad things start to happen to their brain, and it's like they want to continue to play this out. You know, and it's really damaging.
And the doctors know that.
Yeah, they do. And they know they're going to have a lifelong patient, and that's money in their pocket. That self-blame and apologizing all the time, that's something that's very, even if one's not to blame, it's something, I know I've done that myself, and I think you have too. All these things are pretty spot on. Totally spot on.
Absolutely. Number 7 is bully yourself. Be a bully yourself. If you have experienced emotional abuse, you may find yourself using the same disparaging language that your abuser used against you. This means that even if they're no longer in your life, you pick up where they left off. And I remember watching just recently a scene in the old 80s movie Purple Rain, where Prince actually saw the abuse that his dad was giving and the words that he was using against his mom. And then what did Prince do?
He did the same thing to his girlfriend.
He slapped her around or something.
And also, I mean, what you end up doing is abusing yourself. The same abuse that you took when you were younger, you end up doing to yourself. You look in the mirror and you tell yourself you're worthless, you're no good, you're bad. You continue the same paradigm that you heard when you were younger. It's almost like you're punishing yourself. Number 8, need for validation. If you have been abused, you constantly need to be told that you're doing a good job. You can't provide validation for yourself because you feel as if nothing you do is ever good enough. So you look for validation externally. That's the number one theme with trans people. Constant validation.
Yeah,
constant.
That's a given.
Yeah, totally.
That's a given.
And, constantly wanting to be in the, what you call it, in the limelight, to get that kind of, validation, that a boy, that a girl, you're great, you're this, you're that. And, it's something that I myself, many times I said, oh, you're so full of yourself or you're so vain. And it's like, I never got validation as a child. So I constantly want to be told, hey, you're doing a good job. It doesn't matter how good of a job I ever did, whether it was washing the dishes or cleaning up. I never got the good girl. It was always criticism. And I was never told, that I was any good. So you learn how to be your own self-stimulator. Because
nothing was ever good enough.
Nothing was ever good enough, ever. And that is all. You also take on that personality of nothing's ever good enough. Because nothing was ever good enough as a child, so nothing's ever good enough. You become this perfectionist, and try to get validation from others or, give yourself that praise. I found this article actually from Facebook. I had shared it on my wall, and I was looking, what Facebook does, the year it passed or whatever, and I thought, wow, this is something very interesting because it's very spiritual, and it talks about alchemy and androgyny. It's supposed to be the great work of alchemists, and alchemists are people that change one material into another. This is very well known back in the day.
I was interested, just the word androgyny, that means andro, which is always androgen and in men, and gyne, which is female. Yeah. So that's man and woman.
The alchemist's great work. So what is androgyny? Well, androgyny. Who or what is androgyny? So it is the state of being, and androgen, the term used to refer to the fused woman and man in a single body. Funny enough, our intro talks about this, the two that are now becoming one or something of that nature. As a symbol, that androgyne is for me both romantic and otherworldly. Romantic because this half woman, half man is symbolic of twin souls who parted and reunited. We fall in love and instinctively seek out that one perfect mate to be with for life. And otherworldly because our search for that mate is really an echo of a bigger cosmic goal of uniting with the universe, which is God, the Tao, or whatever you call that great something from whence we came and to which we will return someday. Very, very deep stuff here.
The idea of oneness, completeness, the unity of the physical and spiritual, of totally opposite worlds, is the main message of androgyny as an alchemical symbol. Androgyny, the man and woman combined, is a symbol of many truths. These include primordial completion and perfection,
absolute state,
harmonized wholeness,
communion of spirit and matter,
freedom from the world's duality,
the reclaiming of paradise,
fusion of activity with receptivity,
and recombination of the primordial male and female forces,
a reunification of polarities,
the original oneness of the All-Father and the All-Mother. Very deep stuff, very spiritual stuff, stuff that I believe one of the reasons we're seeing such a rise in gender fluidity is because we are heading towards a massive shift. And what many people are trying to continue to place into boxes and force things, the actual shift is about realizing the awakening of our oneness, of our twin soul, that we were once one and we got departed and now we're returning to oneness again.
The hermetic or alchemical androgyne. In alchemy, androgyny is a symbol of immortality, transcendence, and totality. It is the triumph over the deceptive duality resulting from the creation of the universe. It also stands for the merging of the selves, the triumph over mind and ego, and the accord between sameness and diversity, particularly duality.
The alchemist's matter was said to need nothing else but itself to produce a royal child. Matter is a combination of salt, mercury, and sulfur, or the fixed and the volatile. This material is the azoth, which together with fire are the only components of the artist required. The azoth, or universe medicine, was among the greatest aspiration of the alchemists. They also called it the spiritual nature of mercury.
The androgyne possessed female grace, male force, and the two sexes' other distinct qualities. The Hermetic chemists also asserted that we can find androgyne where elements are present in any part of the earth. They claimed that the androgyne had mountains for parents, which are Mercury or Hermes, and Venus or Aphrodite.
That's very interesting. The androgyne possessed female grace, male force, and the two sexes, other distinct quality. Very interesting stuff there. The alchemist's great work, in the alchemy, the great work is producing the perfect androgyne, or mankind restored to wholeness. The primordial two-in-one represented the great work or the ultimate goal of alchemy, to achieve balance in oneness and triumph over the fragmental illusion of the world. Androgyny is also the achievement of the philosopher's stone.
In Western alchemy, the filius philosophorum symbolized the separated consciousness that the alchemists wanted to take back from the physical world. The part man / part woman also signified the end of restlessness, because the alchemist has finally accomplished the great work.
In some alchemy illustration, the androgyne is labeled rebis or res, bina, which meant two things or double thing. It is also called the hermaphrodite or the androgyne of the wise, which is conceived from the coupling of the male sulfur and the female mercury elements. These two opposite yet complementary elements went into mercurial bath and produced the male and female in a single body.
The balanced man and woman in one is a symbol of the original man. Many cultures have illustrated an androgyne with both male and female sex organs. In alchemy, we have both the sexual and desexualized versions, although both with the two-faced head or two separate heads, a male, a female, and a male, or the crowned king and queen.
The alchemists called the male side Jachin and the female side Bohas. Jachin is red and represented by sulfur, with fixity as its main characteristics. Bohas is white, represented by mercury and attributed with vitality. Ultimately, androgyne is not only the perfect combination of two opposites, but the balance of these two in unity.
Androgyny in Chinese alchemy, the yin-yang symbol, is an androgynous symbol. It is called the Taiji Tu in Taoist alchemy, and it shows the perfect fusion of duality, or the complementary combination of all opposites with and into one another. The androgyne is symbolic of the persistent driving force to attain balance and harmony.
Lao Tzu has written that a person can achieve purity if he or she can acknowledge both feminine and masculine dualities and reconcile with them. One must gain wisdom of masculinity and hold on to femininity to represent the ideal man and woman as one. According to ancient Chinese texts, male philosophers such as Zhuangzi have embraced a way of life described as yin, or passive, in order to balance their yang qualities and live as a dualist androgyny.
In Chinese alchemy, the unified male-female is seen standing on a dragon's brow. In this instance, the dragon is a Chinese symbol for the forces of nature, and the androgyne signifies the triumph over the duality of the world. The Chinese culture in general is receptive to the idea of androgyny, as seen in their admiration for Hua Mulan, a legendary woman who embraced the duties of man and served incognito as a soldier and general in Mongol China.
Other androgynous symbolisms in ancient history include the lotus,
The palm tree,
the cross,
the arrow,
the anchor,
the scarab,
and the serpent. Very interesting, the cross and the serpent. Misrepresenting the divine man-woman, one might envision many things at the mention of the words androgyny, or androgynous. This may include a woman with masculine features or vice versa, a cross-dresser or a homosexual. And yet the origin of the alchemical or hermetic androgyne or hermaphrodite is far from just skin deep or sexual. It is not just about being a man and a woman at the same time. It's about being whole, containing both a whole man and a whole woman in equal proportions.
We must remember that an androgyne is not a literal symbol. It does not represent a bisexual, a homosexual, or the contradictory emotions, preferences, or feelings that one has. The androgyne is a spiritual symbol pointing to the cosmic truth or principle of divine wholeness. It does not reflect the actual merging of human sexuality, the preference of one gender, or or combination of one gender in the other.
In other words, it's something very spiritual. You know, I mean, I think mankind has learned to take everything for rote, so black or white. And it's what's happening in our universe. I truly believe that this whole shift that's taking place has a lot to do with this whole alchemist type of thing. Symbol casting for the alchemy androgen, stuck in a project, suffering from indecision. As with those harmony symbols, you can use the hermaphrodite or androgen when you are experiencing a block, confusion, or conflict. The symbol will pave the way for flow and unity. Focus in the presence of distraction or concentration instead of dispersion.
Although the androgyne was never meant as a literal or romantic representation, it is also beneficial to contemplate this alchemical symbol in understanding our search for wholeness in another person. These are the conjoined and married natures that we automatically seek as long as we are souls trapped in human bodies. There are no promises of the perfect mate for you here, but just understanding this basic need might help us to be wiser in recognizing the best we can be and the best person for us. In the meantime, too, the androgyne encourages us to cultivate in ourselves what we are looking for in another person. The qualities that we like in others may just be what we lack or have but cannot see in ourselves. Our acceptance of our imperfections may pave the way for completion.
This is very deep here, extremely deep stuff. When looking at the alchemical brevis, we do well to remember that the world we live in is a world of duality and imperfection. Some compassion, sense of humor, and wisdom can go a long way in achieving peace and our aspiration in the present moment. You can also use the black and white tidy 2 or yin-yang symbol instead of the two-headed human symbol if you respond better to simpler shapes and colors while meditating.
It's also helpful to use rhyming phrases to keep your mind from wandering. While you meditate, invent some or use the one below. May my two again become one. My great work may be done.
That's very, very nice there. I hope you enjoyed reading and learned a lot from this androgynous symbol. And I have this link on our show page. I find it very, very interesting. you know, that this major shift that we're seeing, you know, in so-called gender identity, this whole push against the LGBT, it's the tug of war, and it's like there's got to be something deeper than meets the eye.
There definitely has to. And, you know, making peace with yourself is a very important thing in life. And it's a journey that we are all on. And it's a journey that's worth taking.
Definitely, because I believe that one cannot grow. You know, we need these bodies to grow. And as a spirit being, we utilize these bodies to navigate our environment, to face the challenges. And I believe that a lot of the yin and the yang, you know, day and night, black and white, we need to experience evil in order to be good. And we need to experience good in order to understand evil. I mean, we need to experience our masculine self in order to understand our feminine self, and vice versa. And I believe that there's no coincidences in this journey that most of us who have struggled with our identity, have struggled with our sexuality, are on.
And I think that, you know, recognizing that the way that you find peace is by making peace with the natures, you know, with both natures that exist inside of you, that negating one only hurts you.
Exactly.
And, you know, when you come to an understanding that the two natures are what makes us the spirit beings that we are, then that's when healing can happen, you know. And the whole concept of, you know, people making mistakes, sinning, as it were, you know, as the church would like to say, sinning is necessary for growth. People need to experience missing the mark and making mistakes and bad behavior so that they can then correct it and learn from their mistakes. I mean, unfortunately, there are people out there that will never learn in this lifetime. And unfortunately for them, they will have to repeat their lessons and until they get it right.
Exactly. And, you know, it's like there's no, I mean, the Christian faith and other religious faith believe that there's this bearded man in the sky who's going to punish you for doing bad things. And I truly believe there's no such thing as bad things. Yes, we might tend to get into a situation where we hurt ourselves and hurt others, but these situations are there in the long run to benefit growth. And as sometimes things have to happen and people get hurt along the way, but these things in the long run are meant to happen to shape the reality and make our spirit grow.
I mean, I look at my own personal life and the choices that I have made, many mistakes that I've made along the way, many people hurt by the choices that I made. But then I also look at how I have been forced to change my ways, how I have been forced to make different, you know, choices, you know, in my life. Whereas if I had stayed in the same situation that I was in, I may have never, ever changed. And, you know, I know that everything happens for a reason, for a purpose, that things don't just, you know, happen out of random, you know, happenstance, but they actually happen so that we as spirit beings can grow. And I am convinced that, you know, that although these things are painful, these mistakes are made, I believe that they are necessary for certain people to change and to make change in their lives and to become better spirit beings.
Exactly. And there are people who utilize, you know, this transition as a form of game, a form of gratification, validation, and they don't really look at the lessons. They don't really look at the spiritual meaning behind this. And it's just a matter of buying a new dress, going out with the girls, putting on the lipsticks and the wigs and doing whatever, and they actually get nothing out of it but self-gratification, some sort of sexualization with it. And then they feed other people, the chasers and the people that are into the perverted world. But if you really, really look into your life and put aside, all the outer things of this and look at the wonderful spiritual growth that you can do by experiencing both your male and your female side, because that's what it's all about. Like Carl Jung, I think, talks about this as well, that it's so important for a woman to experience the androgen, the male energy, to be that male energy at one point of their life, as it is for a man to experience his female side, because you cannot be complete without both. It's like the longing that you have for being a woman. It's the longing of that twin soul that got ripped out of your life, or in the beginning of time, and we are searching for that twin constantly.
Exactly. And that whole concept, it's like, whoever wrote the book Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus is out of his mind, because that whole concept is so anti to what being human is all about. Exactly. Men and women exist and they coexist within the yin yang of life. I mean, life cannot exist without the masculine and the feminine, not separate, but together and intertwined. And together, that's where the strength lies. Together, that's where the hope lies for mankind and for eternal things.
I think it's the religiosity that's actually created the division and want them, like, put men in one box and women in another box or a different planet. Because as long as they divide us, they could conquer. And you see it throughout history. You got women that are mad at men, the feminists, and you got men that are MRA, that are mad at women, and they're always constantly fighting, instead of just sitting back and looking and saying, we need each other. We need each other to get through this craziness. And it's not about just being of a material nature, but spiritual lessons that we're here to learn. And we do need each other. You can't wash one hand without the other. I mean, try to put soap with one hand and you need both hands to be able to lather, to get the back and the front of the hand. And that's the same thing with men and women. We need each other. We need to finally learn how to unite and how to finally play nice in the sandbox.
And we need to realize that we are all just really one organism, one people, and that we are part of what this earth is. We are part of what the universe is. We are just a small microcosm of the macrocosm of life.
Exactly. And there's so many lessons to learn, so many great things that we can experience on this beautiful planet. And people just find themselves spending time in front of a computer in a cubicle in an office, working a 9-to-5 job. They don't take time to enjoy life. They're just worried about keeping up with the Joneses, buying material things, getting their credit cards racked up. I mean, it's a very unhealthy synthetic life.
And as people found out in Irma and Harvey, those things can change just like that. Yeah. I mean, one moment you have your home and your possessions and your things. The next moment you're underwater and trying to survive. Quite literally. One moment you have your home intact. The next moment the roof has been blown off of your head, and you are naked and you have nothing.
And just the other day we were going for a walk, and we had this premonition when we ran into our ex-landlord, and I asked him about his wife, and he didn't answer, and we're kind of like, did they divorce? And then we kind of looked at each other and went, did she die? And sure enough, he looked it up, and his wife had passed away, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, he must have been totally devastated. I mean, he looked like he was out of it, and it had almost been a year since her death. And, you never know when you're with someone you love. You've got to be so thankful and live in the moment and enjoy every minute of it. Because, like you said, one minute you're here, the next minute you don't know where you are, what happens, who you could lose. We've got to stay present, stay thankful, live in gratitude.
And this concept of constantly looking in the past and constantly looking forward to the future. And I'm talking about, since I come from a Christian background, I talk about, this great expectation of, so many Christians think that the rapture is going to happen. It's going to take all these wonderful, righteous people from the planet when God starts pelting it with his judgment and stuff. And it's like, that goes anti to what it is to be human. Because to be human is to be alive in this moment, in this second. That is what being human is all about. And the only reality that we have is this moment right now that I'm speaking. Oh, it just went away. I mean, it's just constantly happening, and it doesn't stop happening. It's not like, oh, let's look back into the past and wish we did things differently, or hope that, things turn out better in the future. I mean, live in the moment. That's all we have.
That's all we have. And you don't take yourself so serious. Don't beat yourself up. I mean, I understand gender dysphoria. I understand body disassociation. I understand all these things. But people that live their life based on a reflection of a mirror and think they have to be a certain way, and that's all they think about, you're letting your life waste away. And you're also harming yourself by this medicalization of trying to create what you think you should have been. I mean, should have, could have, would have. You can't live your life that way, because you are destroying your health. You are destroying the health of those around you, the loved ones that are so confused and so, they can't understand what it is that you're talking about, what it is that you're doing. Express, be happy, but don't become so immersed in this and so neurotic about it, because in the end, you're only going to get hurt.
And you put your faith, like if you do put your faith in a mirror, you put your faith in an inanimate object that isn't really representing who you really are. It's a reflection of what this imperfect material would show, but what other people see is not what the mirror shows you. So exactly. A mirror isn't even accurate.
No, not at all. I mean, it's like...
It's always the opposite of what you're looking at, for real.
I mean, if you look at an anorexic that looks in the mirror, and constantly sees themselves fatter than what they actually are, and that mirror is lying to them, and they're like starving themselves more and more until they die, like Aaron Carpenter did. Or the opposite end is, you look at this guy who's trying to bodybuild, and he wants to get bigger than life, and he keeps, taking more steroids and lifting more weights, and eventually he ends up hurting himself and dying at a young age.
What if the mirror actually is warped, and maybe it shows you as being too thin or too fat, and it's the only mirror you have, and you, for the rest of your life, you're like battling your image in this mirror because you feel like you're too fat, but you're really not. It's just that it's distorted in the mirror, because I remember just the other day we were at the gym, and there was this workout machine, and it had a little like plastic piece that reflected, and it made everyone look really super thin, super tall.
Yeah.
So if you were overweight and you were looking at that, you would be like, oh, I look pretty good, and then you wouldn't think that you need to be worked on, that you need to work out, and vice versa goes for the person who feels like they're chubby because the mirror shows them that reflection. So don't trust the mirror. The mirror is not your friend.
And people that keep doing surgeries on themselves, whether it's SRS or any kind of gender affirming surgeries, or whether it's just cosmetic surgeries, you don't like your nose, you don't like your ears, you don't like your face, you're constantly just hurting yourself to chase after some sort of illusion that you have in your mind, this sort of deception that you put in your head, these lying voices that tell you you need to do this so you can reach this. I mean, we've got to be real. We've got to have some sort of reality and stop hurting ourselves.
Because if we don't, we're just going to end up killing ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to mention names, but we've been seeing a lot of, especially when we know that have undergone procedures and now are not feeling so well, very tired.
Yeah, they can't wait for the day to end because they can't deal with life. as it is.
And that happens with a lot of people. They get SRS or orchiectomy and things of that nature. And we're also seeing a lot of people that are desisting, you know, after 4 or 5 years of trying to pursue this gender change or whatever it is, that it's like they can't keep up. They're exhausted. They can't keep doing this because it's very exhausting.
It is, and it, you know, costs people their careers. It costs people their families. It costs people their livelihoods.
Their health.
It costs people their health, for one.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, just stop trying to force yourself into a box, and stop trying to creating these things in your head, and just stay away from the mirror. Just, you know, go out in nature, be happy, just work on your spirit. That has better outcomes than continuing to work on the body. Yeah, work out, eat healthy, but all the other stuff that's just going to hurt you, any kind of medicalization is very hurtful to your body. Yeah. So I guess that's about it.
I think so. I mean, we're going 56 minutes here on this.
Okay, so. And we'll be on again Monday, radio again, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is the radio segments.
TV
and
Tuesday.
TV Tuesdays at 6 o'clock on Tuesday. We do our regular TRTV's Real Talk with the Cummings, where you get to see our face and we share all sorts of different information. And we look forward that you guys catch on, because like tonight we didn't have anybody, but I think that because it's like just new, we just threw this up.
Yeah.
We were going to do the blog talk, but that didn't work out. So I think once people get the hang of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be easy because you don't have to, you know, do anything different. You just come on over to Google,
same
YouTube,
thing.
and watch our live stream, and it'll be on Monday, Wednesday through Fridays, 9:30 Mountain Time, and our TV Tuesdays on at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, and looking forward to interviewing anyone that, especially on the radio segment, so you don't have to show your face. If you want to stay anonymous, that's the best way to do it. And we would love to interview the sisters, parents that are dealing with kids who are gender fluid or gender confused.
We'd also love to debate with anyone, if any of you that feel that you have an opinion that you'd like to share that may not be ours. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being able to constructively try to, you know, talk about things without getting vented and heated and upset. I mean, we can just be all civil and present our facts, as it were, and let the chips fall where they would.
And learn from each other, you know, because that's the main thing. Learn from one another. So, all right, guys. So we'll see you on Monday. I hope you have a great weekend. You know, we have there's an LGBT thing going on here in Silver City, and it's totally different from what Fort Lauderdale. The people here are just fantastic. They're
wonderful people, and we'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, they're gonna have a kids zone and everything, and so looking forward to catching up with a lot of people that we haven't seen in a while, since we lived here before in Silver City. All right, guys, we love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Good night.
Good night.
Transition.
It's the other open.
It's the other one. It says ending clip.
It's the other close. It's the music one.
Ending clip is supposed to be this one. I know, but why isn't it doing it? Oh, well. Good night, folks.
Yeah.
Take care.